First, on the Trinity and the Qur'an, and Islam generally, you're spot on. The Trinity is a real problem for Muslims. It's a problem for really well-meaning Muslims who want to understand Christian doctrine and do their best, and so they try to understand how can these Christians still be monotheists. For Muslims who are more interested in apologetics and maybe converting Christians to Islam, becomes a frequent target. There's a verse in the Quran, chapter 4, verse 171, where the Quran says, do not say three, stop. God is only one God, to him belongs everything in the heavens and the earth. That verse begins by saying, "O people of the book, do not go to extremes in your religion." And so the sort of vibe from Islamic apologists, sometimes from Muslim apologists, is come to simple monotheism, right? And then Christians often will respond saying, well, listen, knowledge about God, a certain amount of knowledge can be known through natural reason, observing the world, the human person, all of this. But ultimately, a more intimate knowledge of God is from God's own self-unfolding, self-revelation. And that's where we understand God's triune nature, a mystery that, is beautiful, but is known to us only because of revelation. So, that it is a really, really big issue there. I would say that Islam in its very origins, in some ways, this was a central question. Christians were around in Mecca and Medina, despite what a really traditional account says. More and more scholars are convinced there were Christians around in Mecca and Medina when Muhammad was active. And there seems to have been, although this is sort of an open question, but there seems to have been some sort of paganism where the old pagan gods and goddesses maybe were seen as angels, but they were some sort of intercessors. And Muhammad, vis-a-vis the Christians, he needed to establish his legitimacy as a new prophet who should be obeyed. And so that meant dealing with Jesus and Christian doctrine. But vis-a-vis the pagans or the pseudo-pagans, he wanted to elevate his God beyond any of their intercessors. So in both cases, he had to come to a distinctive position. And so God talk is just absolutely central to the Quran and Islam.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Quran itself, as I alluded to, referring to Quran 4, 171, has this rhetoric against Christian teaching in the Quran. Also chapter 5, verse 116, which we could speak about. So, so it's a big issue. Now, a common position, I would say, in a very basic sense, there can be a common position that we both worship one God. We agree on many of God's attributes. God is as merciful, God is just, God is one. So we could agree on these attributes. But then I would say the goals of interreligious dialogue are not like the goals of ecumenical dialogue for Christians. So the goal is not ultimately total unity or agreement, but respect, friendship, something like that.
That's a fantastic answer.